Hello, and welcome to Free Your Mind. I'm Quentin, your host, and we're going to go through the beginnings of Chapter 4. Chapter 4. This is going to be Prelude to the Secret War. Just got a few questions that we have here. Who is Everett really? And what does it mean to fly like a wind dragon? Are the wind dragons just creatures or signs of something awakening? What clues suggest that Daniel's father knows more than he's revealing? Does the mention of this dark avenger cause challenges within? Let's dive deep into it here on Free Your Mind. Here we are. Meat and potatoes. Yeah, so we are in Chapter 4, The Secret War. Part 1. There's a Part 1 and a Part 2. So Part 1 is like a preliminary, right? We're going to get to do a couple things, folks. So we go to Kamal. This is another kingdom, right? We're in Siak Kamal. That's our location. Siak Kamal. Everett felt like he was looking down over his town. It was as if he could see it all from a dragon's eye view. Flying over Kamal, he saw cottages everywhere, all spread out with their individual plots of land to enjoy. Taking an even closer look, near the rolling hills, he could see the people he called neighbors. One small cottage above the rest stood out above the others. This one small cottage was his home. Here resided his father, a quaint farmer named Thomas. He enjoyed two things, his family and the bountiful blessings of nature all around him. Thomas breathed deeply, taking in the fresh air. He could hear the distant echo of the wind dragons roaring up in the rolling green hills to the left of their cottage. Looking back towards the porch, the farmer blew a kiss to his beautiful wife, Anya. She dropped the broom she held to catch his fluttering kiss she pretended was making its way to her. He loved the way she played along and smiled, giving her a wink as she, quote-unquote, caught it. Thomas continued his walk, moving along the fields, enjoying the visual beauty of the rows and rows of strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries that stretched out across their farm plots. These abundant fruits were such a beautiful commodity for Enosh. He thought of Silver City, Diamond District, and Terrapesca, and how great business boomed for them in Aavien when they traveled there. Just like here in Kamal, those Aavien hotspots were just as successful as Uruguay, Lawyer's Cove, and Harrison Quad. Sometimes even more so. Not too far from where the little herder farm rested, Everett enjoyed a local watering hole. He opened his eyes, always feeling as if his daydreams were real. He could feel the wind in his hair and saw his village as he flew across the sky. He could have sworn he was truly a wind dragon at heart, soaring over the hills of Siak on his way to Grundrog. It was quite common to find him in the water. One would even think he was from Azera or lived in one of the high-end hubs like the Omicron. One would even think he was from Azera, or lived in one of the high-end hubs like Omicron. He enjoyed swimming or having a lazy day when not helping his father. Everett came out of the warm water, his sun-kissed olive skin gleaming from the heat of the sunlight. His coffee-colored hair stuck up everywhere after he shook the water from it. Skinny and lanky, his muscles still showed an impressive definition, flexing with his movements. Other guys his age may be more built, but he didn't care or think much of it. Everett looked up, wishing he could take to the skies. He so deeply expected to see a wind dragon flying above his head. He slid his feet into his wooden-soled shoes, stressing the worn leathery cloths that covered the top of each foot. They were more than likely his favorite, seeing how he wiggled his toes proudly out in the front. He journeyed along the trodden rocky path, his daydreaming jumping about from the commonality of how these magic doors could take you everywhere in the city to the hovering buggies bustling around Silver City and its sister cities. No zebras, hippoi, or unicorns were needed, like in the old days when his father was a kid. He couldn't remember the last time he had even seen someone with a pet hippoi. Everett's attention was quickly grabbed. He could hear the sound of the wind dragons in the hills, very commonplace. They're so peaceful, and from time to time you'll catch one or two swimming in the lakes. He wondered if they would appear at the Isle celebration that was fast approaching. He remembered that they had appeared quite a bit last year when Leochita was there. The only other dragons he had ever seen were a few water dragons accidentally while shopping with his mother in Iob and the scary-looking thunder dragons from afar. As merchants, he and his father had been at the markets in Silver City. He recollected seeing their wings barely visible as they sat covered, well hidden within the clouds that rested atop the city's skyscrapers. Everett had finally arrived home, turning down the rocky dirt road toward his family cottage. As expected, he could see his mother and father sitting on the lanai, enjoying each other's company. "Hello, love," his mother Anaya smiled at him as his father Thomas held her. They were exactly where he thought they would be. "Did you have a good swim?" Everett nodded yes, falling into the seat adjacent to them. Simultaneously, he draped his legs across it. "Why do you sit yourself down like a burlap filled with potatoes?" Thomas sighed, grinning at him. "Potatoes, eh?" Everett mocked his father with a smile. Thomas just grunted happily at his son's jesting, rolling his eyes. The boy closed his eyes, snuggling deeper into the chair. More than ready for a nap, he jostled his feet so his slides would fall off. One fell, then the other, bringing Everett some contentment. He resisted the comforting urge to stuff a hand in his pants. Still, the boy smiled happily to himself. "Dad, I'm light as a feather." Location: Silver City, Aavien. The Thunder Castle. Daniel was surprised Angelique wanted to see him at all. After all, she was infatuated with T-Bolt. He had stood at the bronze double doors of his palace and watched as the chariot drove off with the princess inside. After arriving back in his own room, he laid back across his bed, thinking about the festival, then about the princess. His thoughts moved to his brother and their confrontation on the balcony. Daniel sighed, deciding to be the bigger of the two and make amends with Casey. He got up, left his room, and walked down the hall to the castle's east wing. Daniel walked with purpose, passing the main staircase to the lower floor. It was about the halfway point from one side of the castle to the other. Making his way to his destination, Daniel pressed himself against the door and listened for any noise from Casey. Nothing. He knocked on his brother's chamber door lightly at first, then listened again. Still nothing. He knocked a few more times, giving the adequate pause in between each attempt. But Casey didn't answer. Maybe he's asleep, Daniel thought as he turned to walk away. He smirked slightly at the thought of another possibility. Or maybe he and Joey finally got together. Finally, he gave up and headed back in the opposite direction. With a yawn of his own, Daniel felt maybe it should be his bedtime too. As he rounded the corner, he heard footsteps coming up the main stairwell. Alert as always to any possible danger, Daniel trotted lightly. He was pleased to meet this danger head on. It was his father. Daniel, the mighty, his father joked through his overfilled mouth. Daniel grinned at his barefoot, shirtless father, draped in his regal robe. He noticed the assortment of food his father balanced in his arms. King Robert looked down to see what he was staring at. Ah, yes, just a bit of a late-night snack. Be careful, Dad, or you may lose that manly figure of yours, Daniel joked at first. His eyes reflected a more serious tone as he stepped down and patted his father's growing gut before moving past him. He began to continue down the west wing to his room when his father called to him. Son, real quick. He motioned Daniel back towards him. The king made it to the top step and leaned in close to Daniel, so to speak, more quietly. Have you heard about this Dark Avenger that people are saying shows up in the city at night? Daniel shook his head no. It had been the first he had heard of it. He spoke just as quietly, a hint of excitement in his voice. Did you want T-Bolt to go out and look around? No, not yet anyway, King Robert thought for a moment, now rubbing his own belly. They seem to be protecting the Trinity cities of Aavien. If he or she is real, then let them be for now. Okay, Daniel exaggerated, bowing to his father before continuing toward his room. He moved inside, leaving his door open behind him. Daniel removed his shirt and hopped back on his bed. He thought of Angelique and the time they just had together. He slowly began to drift into slumber, still smelling her scent lingering as his mind floated to thoughts about things. He knew the Kamal festival would be here before he knew it. His parents would be there, he was sure of it. He knew he wouldn't be, but T-Bolt had to be. Daniel giggled, his mind immediately reverting to what his father had asked. Something about this Dark Avenger business bothered him. His father had spoken as if it were someone real, as if he knew more than he let on. He sighed deeply, propping himself up against his bed's headboard, and glanced at the ring on his hand. He played with his smooth, shiny, flawless-looking Thunderstone ring, moving it back and forth on his finger. Conflicted about what to do, he laid back down again, staring at the ceiling. He knew he wouldn't be satisfied with letting this go. His father said not to pursue this, but did he really mean it? Maybe I'll just go have a peek and see if I can find this Dark Avenger. Daniel exhaled as he thought to himself. He really knew what he was going to do before even making the decision. Daniel stood up and opened up his bedroom window. Again, he looked down at his golden marble Thunderstone ring. He held it up in the air and recited the holy prayer. This was like second nature to him, having done so time and time again. He was opening himself up to the heavens. Spirit of the heavens, to thee I pray. Thunder dragon, Thunderstone, bond to me this day. Lightning and thunder boomed across the Aavien sky. KRAKOOM! From left to right, from top to bottom, Daniel was immersed in a thunderous cloud of swirling golden glitter. When it dissipated, the god known to most as T.D.F stood in the place where Daniel had. His long golden flecked hair flowed down across his golden bronze shoulders. With the ring no longer upon his hand, the crackling Thunderstone had taken form as the same emblem that flew upon every Enoshian flag. The power source displayed proudly and boldly upon his chest, golden chains attached to it in 3 points, extending out, wrapping around his torso to his back. It attached securely to his flowing cape of bronze and gold that draped from him, extending to the floor. The god looked down, inspecting himself. He looked at his golden gauntlets and bronze and gold belted cingulum that draped down, covering private area. The hero followed the sculpted muscles of his long legs down toward his bronze and golden boots. Daniel was still amazed at the power he possessed as T.D.F. Daniel rubbed his hand across his chest, grazing one of his bronze nipples as he felt the smoothness of the Thunderstone. He could understand why Angelique was so taken with him in this form. He was quite taken with himself. As the thunderous power crackled across his body, T.D.F crouched slightly, as though ready to pounce. He built up enough power and whoosh! T.D.F blasted forward, flying right out the window. Like a beacon of gold light, he shot into the awaiting darkness. The thunderous champion appeared just like his hero and predecessor, the lightning god Abraxas. T.D.F streaked through the night sky of Silver City, the sounds of thunder and lightning booming as he did. In a window, the king had chosen well. He watched as his son had taken the bait. Good boy, King replied to himself as he stood hidden behind a curtain. Go protect your brother. Man, that's pretty good. All right, that's the end of that. Stay tuned for the Author's Corner. There we are. Welcome to the Author's Corner and the prelude to the Secret War. This is going to be one of 2 parts of the Secret War that we go through. So part 1, which will cover probably the next couple episodes, possibly. I'm not sure yet. Not sure yet, folks. Anyways, in the beginning, I gave you some questions to kind of ponder over before we started our read. So let's go back to those. Okay, question 1. Who is Everett really? And what does it mean to fly like a wind dragon? I think when you meet Everett, he is mostly daydreaming. In his mind, he is seeing himself as a wind dragon, crossing across the skies, watching everything below. So he's in that state. But it almost makes you feel as if he is linked with them in some way. What do you think? It's a good question for you to answer. What do you think? Leave a comment about that. Question 2. Are the wind dragons just creatures or signs of something awakening? Ooh. Well, he says that he sees them in the lakes every night again swimming, so they're not a figment of his imagination, apparently. But maybe all of this is something that's awakening within him. Or he could just be a kid with a very active imagination. A love of water, a love of nature, being out in the sun, all that. That could be really just what it is. What do you think? All right, so those are the first 2 questions for that first half. Next, we dive right into the Aavien kingdom, but the castle, the Thunder Castle. And we're going to meet with Daniel, right? We just read about him. So those are the questions that are coming next. Are you ready? Here goes. Does the Wrong question. What clues suggest that Daniel's father knows more than he's revealing? Well, the pure fact that he brought up the Dark Avenger to Daniel, right? Talked about what he's doing. This is someone that no one really knew about. There was no real whispers that made it to Daniel or his team or anything else. But apparently the king knows about it. So he is in some way egging Daniel on, pushing at his curiosity to go and do some spying. And his father knows this because at the end you see where he says, go get your brother. So apparently he knows more. So that's less of a question of what suggests that. He pretty much lays it out for you, right? Do you think that he has been just keeping this secret, or is it something new that he just learned? All right, next question. Last question. Does the mention of this Dark Avenger cause challenges within? Challenges within Daniel for something that he didn't know about? I think it's more of challenging him as T-Bolt. The fact that somebody else is picking up the slack that he didn't even know that he had. All right? Because he is the protector of Aavien, right? T-Bolt. Komodo is the protector of Eisenhall. Scorpio is the protector of Heroin. Diesel is the protector of Nodend. Mastratic is the protector of Openod. And Leochita is the protector of Kamal. So they all have their separate kingdoms that they are protecting, that they're overlooking, right? The only reason for them to come together is either for a big threat or festivals or some kind of celebration, which is what it seems to be. It doesn't seem like they have a whole lot going on here. It's just all this peace and tranquility and everything else, aside from what they don't know is the darkness within that the Dark Avenger is taking care of or facing, right? What do you think? Do you think he has a reason to feel challenged with with the Dark Avenger? Is the Dark Avenger a threat to his title as leader of the Team Dragon Force or protector of Aavien? You tell me. Well, that's our last question, folks. And I would say go ahead and like and subscribe because it's going to get meatier and meatier from here. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And thank you for coming to Free Your Mind. Cheers.